We got our hydration on deck. We got StarCraft in the background.
Oh my gosh. The click clacking of the keys.
I know, right?
I just got my YouTube notification that the Come Up series is live.
Yes. What's
All
up?
right,
Nadeem
there.
Hussein is the first one here. We're going to put that on for the record. We are live. Yo, what's up, Chris? Toby, Atlanta in the house. Yes, go ahead and shout where you are coming from. We want to know. Yo, the squad is loading in.
Where I haven't seen Linda in a minute. Where's Linda?
I mean, you know, everybody on YouTube has like different names, so they have like monikers and everything else.
Linda from Facebook.
I know. Does she go by Linda on YouTube?
I thought she did.
Yeah.
Linda, blink twice if you're here on YouTube. What's good, everyone? We got the Bahamas in the building. We got Oakland. We got Vegas, Brooklyn. Oh, wow. You guys are coming in fast. We got Seattle. We got London, Northern Cali, Boston Patriots. We got Phoenix, Arizona, home of all the autonomous driving. London again. Let's see. We got DMV in here. Happy Jamaican Independence Day. Yes.
Yes.
All right, so we also got people in from Houston. What's up, Vanessa? Providence, Rhode Island. Bruce, Southeast Georgia. I think somebody was shouting out Bruce Wayne. I mean, I wonder if he's gonna show up in our chats one day. That'd be weird. I'm just putting it out there. That'd be really, really weird. Oh wow, people are already starting to throw up Dark Knights. We got Los Angeles.
Oh, when I first saw that, I was like, what? It took me a minute. I was like, oh, that's a bat.
Florida in the building.
Hella delayed.
Wow. Okay. I mean, you know, Anthony, don't hate us because you ain't us. Ann Arbor, Michigan, Louisiana. Oh man, you guys are definitely coming in. Bay Area, Maryland. Hey y'all, we got the Dark Knight with the gems. Uh-oh.
Okay.
You know, it may be gems, it may be keys, who knows, right? It just kind of sometimes depends upon how we're feeling.
Someone said I'm from Gotham.
We got the Red Panda squad in the building.
Cashmatic, I got you. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you for having our back. We see you. Thank you. Brooklyn from Barbados. Okay. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Memphis, more. Red Panda and EYL.
What's up?
We got Staten Island in the building.
All right.
Okay.
What's that? Who watching over Gotham?
Yo, but why is it when I posted that we were going live that I got a bunch of messages where people were like sending me a bunch of like bat signals in the sky in the message as a reply? Like, I mean, I'm not that guy, you know. He's just a friend. So when I ask questions, I'm just asking for a friend because he sent me a text.
Oh my gosh.
All right. How are you guys feeling today? You know, Kamari, how are you? Jolene, what's good?
Go ahead, Kamari.
Yeah, I'm
It's
good.
Thursday.
It is Thursday. Thursday's my last work day, so Friday is my off day.
Okay.
Ready for Friday.
Okay. Jolene, how art thou?
You know, on Thursdays is when I get my massage. So I'm super relaxed, hella chill.
Oh my God, she had to throw that in there.
And today,
wait, did you just do the emoji pose?
Today was a really good day. I'm not gonna bust my gun though today though. I'm gonna wait till later. Oh, and don't forget, we do have I forgot Super Chat is on.
Yes, Super Chat is here. Thank you so much, Come Up Squad. No, thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for being a supporter. We love each and every single one of you. We do it for each and every single one of you. You know, we give it to you straight, no chaser, the truth, as well as the fundamentals, and a few other goodies in the pack. So Thank you. Keep being you. Shut up, Siri. Siri's gonna start teaching me some manners. Yo, question on your assistants, right? Do you guys have it set to just American accents, or do you change it?
I switch it up depending on what mood I'm in.
Okay. Is your Google Assistant like just standard
Yeah,
since
mine's
you're
regular.
Android?
Mine's regular.
Okay, mine is South African.
Use it a lot.
I just think that there's something cool about South African accents. So,
Yeah.
all right. What's up, everybody? This is Mark Monroe. I'm accompanied by the wonderful Jolyn GC and Kamari Bright. Tonight is, what we do like every Thursday night. It's Hot Take Thursday. So I'm going to stop talking because this is a show where they come for me off of Spirit Airlines or wherever they may be coming from to try to, they try to jack me up with the news and see how it affects your wallet. But in the end, all jokes aside, we're all about telling you about what's happening today and throughout this week that we've endured and how it will impact your portfolio and also your wallet. So stay tuned. We got a lot jam-packed. I have no idea because they come at me randomly and I don't get to see the questions coming. So I'm going to learn about the questions at the same time that you guys do. And of course, you know how we do. We also do charts and we also do some goodies in our bag. So stay tuned, kick back, pull out your popcorn. If you have wine, go for it. And I'm going to pass it over to the wonderful Jolyn GC. Take it away.
What's up, everybody? Happy Jamaican Independence Day. Oh my goodness. Yes, had to represent. So today, as you know, it's Hot Take Thursday, and we are excited we don't try to come for Mark, okay? We just try to bring the news. Okay, we just try to bring the news. That's it, Take your shady steps. But anyway, let's get into what happened today. So we had a green day. The Dow was up by 185.46 points. S&P 500 was up 21.39 points, and the NASDAQ was up 109.67 points. For sector performance, we got communication services, which we'll get into, was number one, followed by tech, and then utilities. And for the bottom feeders, we had materials, health, and energy. Then for our stock picks, actually DraftKings is number one. We'll hear more about that later. XLC, newly added, AMD, and then the bottom three, Boeing, ARKQ, and Cloud. And we had several yellow. This is a perfect day. We got green, y'all are black, and then there was hella 52-week highs for the yellow. So we're winning today. So AMD, new 52-week high. Yes. Best Buy, 52-week high. FDN, XLY, Hero, ARK, the K, ARK with an F, and XLC, all 52-week highs. So this is lovely. But you know what? I'm going to kick it off to Killer Cam, aka Kamari.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Our first topic.
So I think just a few general things that happened. Sprint officially dissolved into T-Mobile. So if y'all ever get out of a phone call, you can't blame it on a lost call signal because Sprint's not around anymore. The Rock bought the XFL. So Mark, I'll be following sports stuff now. Just thought you should know.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
But kind of in that same vein, let's just start out with DraftKings. So we saw that they expanded their partnership with Major League Baseball, and they also launched sports betting in Illinois. So what kind of movement did we see based off of that news? And they were, Jolyn, you said they were our top performer out of the list today?
Yes.
What are we seeing with DraftKings? What's going on?
We're seeing sports happen. I think that's what's the case. As long as sports is happening, then this company is going to show some signs of life. But I think it's still holding back from what it could potentially do as long as we do not have the NFL, or as long as we have the looming NFL season up for grabs, whether it's going to start or not. That's one of the biggest money makers for DraftKings. So if that doesn't happen, that could ultimately throw ice water on this rally very fast, very quickly. Oh, and should I talk about The Rock and the XFL?
Oh, if you want to, I'll be watching the XFL.
I mean, the XFL is not a publicly traded company or anything like that. It is owned by Vince McMahon, who also happens to be, you know, the owner and chairman of World Wrestling Entertainment, which of course that's where The Rock came from. And then he made his money in Hollywood. That's huge. That's huge because now they have a significant partner, a person who's good as it pertains to picking great content as well as good investments. So, you know, I'm pretty excited. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how the XFL changes, if it does make any changes. The biggest thing that they need is some stability. I think that's the reason why they failed in the first place. There wasn't a lot of stability. There was a lot of, you know, what do we do? What do we do? So I think that if you have somebody like The Rock coming on board, I think it should bring some stability. But I mean, still wait and see approach.
Gotcha. Okay. So kind of to switch gears, another thing that happened this week, Apple had a 4-day gain that was larger than Netflix's entire valuation. We saw like some huge movement from Apple this week. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I hate to say this, but and I don't want people to come for me in the comments sideways because, you know, I'm going to give it to you straight, no chaser. There's a lot of folks out there that are buying into Apple, and Apple is reaching valuations that I don't think that it will be able to significantly prove over the next quarter. But I mean, at the same token, I think that after the stock splits, you're going to see somewhat of a pullback because of the fact that people were in it just to see if they can get a better boost price right before the split. Though that it's smarter to say, for example, wait for the split and then buy because the shares are cheaper. But I mean, based upon where we're headed, if the stock reaches, say, for example, $600, where I've been seeing some bullish calls in the options market, I mean, just imagine 600 divided by 4. That's pretty much some bad juju across the board for investors. And then on top of that, that's just a ridiculous valuation. So a lot of people are buying in. There's a lot of FOMO. There's a lot of exuberance there. I think that Wall Street will have a habit of throwing cold water on where they start flooding. And I want everybody to understand this. I'm not trying to like turn into the world's biggest bear. I'm just trying to give you the reality. What Wall Street will do sooner or later is they're going to flood the market with shares. And when that happens is now retail investors are left holding the bag for a lot of shares that once those shares hit the market, then that definitely brings down the value. So if you're in it to say, for example, play it for the short, God bless, play it for the short and then get in and get out. But outside of that, I mean, the stock is it's overdue for a correction.
Gotcha.
I do want to throw in some comments here. Backing up to DraftKings, we have some heartbreaks in the comments.
Oh, no.
Shannon said DraftKings broke her heart, and Vanessa said that Cloud broke her heart.
Yeah.
So I want to talk. We gotta talk about some winnings too.
Okay. So should we talk about Cloud? Because I think the reason why Cloud is down, I think there are a few companies right now in the aftermarket. We saw earnings today take place, and there was quite a few companies today, like for example, Datadog, which is a great cloud-based company, but at the same token, they're down significantly in the aftermarket right now. I think they had disappointing earnings that, I mean, didn't beat expectations. It happens. And then over the next week, the stock is going to be sitting over the next few days, the stock is going to be sitting in the doghouse, in which companies like Cloud take a hit. But I mean, in the long run, the fundamentals will override, and Datadog is still a good company. Cloud is still a great ETF for cloud-based companies. So nothing to fear in the long run, just a little short-term pain.
Gotcha.
Ladies.
Kind of in the same vein, you mentioned somebody not making earnings. Jolene, did you want to talk a little bit about, who was it, Disney that didn't make earnings?
I do. You know what? I actually do want to talk about Disney because on my way to my massage, the Lyft driver, because Uber is off our list now, so I took a Lyft. No, I'm just kidding. So the Lyft driver was playing the Hamilton soundtrack.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is lit, because it sounded familiar because I was lucky enough to see it live, but I only saw it one time, so it's not like I know every single song. But then it reminded me, we started talking about Disney, and it reminded me that, you know, it was streaming on Disney Plus, and that's how a lot of people have been able to see it. But yeah, can we look at, you know, a closer look at Disney? Because Disney is a part of XLC, and XLC totally.
Are you guys saying that you guys want to see a chart?
Maybe.
Yes.
Well, of course I would love to show you guys a chart. Let's do it.
I like the shift in attitude, because I remember in the beginning you was not trying to show us charts.
You know what? Let's not dwell on the past. Let's focus on the positive and not the negative. All right, can we see it?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so here is Disney Company. Now, you guys know how we do. We like to definitely show you the stock, but then at the same token, we like to show you a nice little indicator. And in this indicator, we have the Bollinger Bands, which is set by a 20-period schedule with pretty much, I mean, it's pretty much the standard. It's a standard Bollinger Band, to make it simple. All right, so year to date, I mean, the stock has pretty much had quite the tumultuous year. It hasn't really rebounded like other companies are, hint, hint. And I mean, pretty much what we're seeing right now is based upon what's driving the stock upward, and we could be seeing a stock breakout here. But at the same token, if the market itself goes for a correction, then Disney will probably come down with it in the process. So let's do a little bit more of a deep dive, shall we? So looking at this, we saw that the stock has pretty much been, it's been on a nice little uptick in the last 3 months, though it did come back down because of the fact that we were hearing about movie theaters, as well as, like, you know, would Disney be able to really compete against the Netflixes of the world? A lot of folks were asking about, say, for example, the subscriptions. Are the subscriptions still in play? And then all of a sudden during earnings, we find out that all of a sudden Disney has 100 million subscribers. Now let's rewind, because there's a lot of information to unpack there. So when we look at Disney and having 100 million subscribers, that doesn't mean that you have 100 million paid subscribers. For example, Netflix, and the reason why a lot of folks are jumping onto the Disney train is because they're like, okay, hey, Disney can do this, they can do that, they can do this. And on top of that, that's not including their theme parks, which is really the biggest thing that's really holding them down, because of course nobody's there thanks to COVID-19, as well as ESPN didn't have any sports playing really. So, I mean, the biggest thing that really propped up ESPN was The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls documentary. But the biggest thing that a lot of folks are looking at is they're putting it into perspective, where there's 192 million. I think this is 192 million subscribers, either worldwide. I'll double check this, either worldwide, or somebody come and check me in the comments. I have no problem with that. It's either 192 or 198 million subscribers in Netflix versus 100 million subscribers in Disney Plus. But again, take that with a grain of salt, because that also includes a lot of folks that are doing trial runs. It doesn't mean that everybody has completely turned into a paid subscriber. So just, again, take that into consideration. And that is the reason why you've seen the stock pop. I mean, thanks to the volatility of earnings, we're going to see if this Bollinger Band will adjust probably tomorrow to see if the stock still fits within the band. If it does not, then that lets you know that it's running a little hot for the short period of time, but you typically see that during earnings anyways. If it's sustainable, and let's go to the 6-month chart. If it's sustainable, let's actually go to year to date. So if this stock can sustain, it's pretty much in this range, in this upper range here, it's pretty much in no man's land for a while. The next range that it needs to reach is about the 135 marker, and it's not that far. So if it can get to the 135 and break past that, then, you know, how does the song go? I'm on a new level.
Mm-hmm.
What does XLC look like, though?
Of course. So let's take a look at our you know, the other stepchild, XLC.
Dang, stepchild.
I mean, you know, it does have companies like Facebook in it, so keep that in mind. All right, so XLC though has been performing very good. I mean, if we look at, say, for example, what's in it. So for example, it has Netflix in it, which if we look at that in perspective, I mean, clearly one of the best performers. If we look at, say, for example, Facebook, there it is. if we look at, we're going to take one of the Googles because a lot of folks don't know there's actually two Google tickers on the market. There's GOOGL and then there's GOOG, but we'll just take this one just for the sake of the conversation. So Google is actually technically be one of the underperformers in the stock or in the XLC. It hasn't really quite performed well, but thanks to the fact that it's up by about, what is it, 11%, you can pretty much multiply that times 2 because there's 2 tickers and they pretty much trade at the same level. So that gives it a boost. So with that being in mind, the biggest real hurt towards the XLC, which has really stopped it from running, is the fact that Google has just been pretty much stagnant throughout the entire year. So, I mean, if Google decides to get its act together, then we could be seeing XLC go up for another leg. But in the long run, it's definitely going to be carried by the Verizons of the world, the AT&Ts, the Netflix, the Facebooks of the world, and of course your Disneys. But if Google steps into the game and says, okay, hey guys, I'm here, you'll see some performance.
So I know we did have some news for Google. I think they just got a stake in ADT for their Google Nest system, and they were supposed to release this new Pixel 4a. Like, do you think that'll have any reflection on the stock?
On Google stock?
Yeah.
Not really.
What kind of news do they need to have some positivity?
Well, Google has definitely been predicated forever. And we could jump off the chart because it's just commentary here. Google has been known for a very long time for its ad revenue. So it's search ad revenue, because everybody knows of Google for its search. But one of the things where Google doesn't get a lot of credit for is, say, for example, the other companies within its portfolio, like, for example, it's Waymo, which could be huge for, say, for example, delivery service. If they ever decide to turn on the lights outside of Arizona, that's huge because, I mean, there's only really 2 major players when you think about folks that are actually testing autonomous driving in the market. And that's really Tesla and Google. That's it. I mean, you have Uber out there, but I mean, yeah. They can monetize that, and ultimately taking another leg in, say, for example, public transportation, or food delivery services, or just delivery of packages. So there's that. They've acquired a lot of things that were within health, and Google Health was supposed to be this gigantic thing that never really, like, Google does these things where they introduce people to a lot of products that never really quite take. Like, that's always been their problem. They just don't execute well as it pertains to products. They're more like the R&D company that shows you something cool, but then at the same token, okay, now can we turn this into something that's a vital business that helps us scale? No. For example, how many different Google chats do you know of?
I think I have some archives, some old school like Google Chat.
They had Google Talk, Google Chat, Google Hangout. I mean, now there's Google Meet, Google Duo.
Yeah.
Sorry, Google.
They just like to sample.
Yeah.
They just like to sample.
They just got to figure out how to monetize better. If they figure out how to monetize better in their products, then Google can really be a powerhouse with all the companies that they had acquired. And then on top of that, through Google Ventures and what they've done. But I get it with the ADT thing. A lot of folks look at it and they couldn't execute the deal with SimpliSafe, which was a huge booming startup, and they're doing very, very well for home security. And they couldn't really kind of like take that on. And now they're trying to bring ADT services, since ADT is a struggling business anyways, and then bring it within pretty much the package of being able to monetize the Nest products for the doorbell and the cameras. It makes sense, but it's Google.
Do you know where
and I'm really, really rooting for Google, because we need Google to get this together. They're one of the smartest companies out there, but it'd be dope if Google bought, say, for example, Roku or Boston Dynamics. Now that just changes the game, but what do I know? I'll just step to that.
Do you know where the majority of their ad revenue comes from? Is that like consumer, or is that corporation?
It's search.
Gotcha.
I mean, think about it. For every single time that you search for something, or now that you have your phone and ultimately you talk about stuff, it's amazing how it shows up in your search for ads. The tracking, the fact that it's able to make smart recommendations based upon the things in which that you like through Maps. I mean, Maps is also a revenue driver that a lot of folks don't really pay attention to. But like Uber pays a lot of money. A lot of these food delivery services pay a lot of money to Google, because of the fact that it pretty much has become the new Department of Transportation. It mapped the whole world. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. Google does good things. They did some pretty cool things. It's just turning it into a viable business. That's the thing that frustrates me about Google. But you know what?
Well,
Next case.
we don't want you all frustrated. I want to talk about XLY, but I want to talk about XLY not only because they had a 52-week high and they're on our list. Kamari, feel free to bring up Facebook, but I want to use it as a lesson because we have several comments going down. And one thing people want to know is this is related to options. So how do you calculate profit? And then as far as position sizing goes and stop loss orders go for options, I just want to say that for position sizing, I like to go for as much as I can buy. Like, it really hurts my feelings if I can't get a 3-digit buy. Okay, I need at least 100. At least 100 contracts. But when I can't, I just try and get as much as I can. And that's obviously after doing like the research and looking at technicals, so you can figure out like how much you're going to get. But at least a minimum of 5. If you really want to see stuff. But honestly, you got to get in where you fit in. If you are starting off with an account that only has, X amount of dollars, get in where you fit in and just start to see your profit, sell, buy another thing. And you can track your ability to buy more. So that's liquidity, so just pace yourself, y'all. It took me a whole year before I was able to start buying in the 3 digits. And then next year, y'all better watch out, because then it's going to be in the 4 digits. Okay. A minimum of 1,000. So just pace yourselves. We're a family. We're working through this together, so just FYI for that. But for stop loss, Mark, let's look at XLY and let's look at, how we would calculate profit. And then also, like, at what point would you set your stop loss?
All right, give me a second to pull this up for you. I was, I was kind of stuck when you mentioned, like, you're going for 1,000 contracts. I was like, whoa, hey.
I'm coming soon.
I hear some folks out here want to do a challenge against the come up. So we're going to have to create a burner account where it's like people challenge the come up portfolio. And if they can beat the come up portfolio burner, then,
burner,
maybe they take on the profits of the come up. So, or they take the profits that the come up produce. You never know. So here we are with XLY. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
All right. So here we are looking at XLY. So when you're typically looking to come back and say, okay, hey, where do I pull? Year to date is not going to really do it for you. Because year to date just tells you the story, the tale of the tape of where we started to how we got to where we are. And that's not bad, right? Because you're like, okay, where am I as it pertains to trajectory and performance? If you started, say, for example, in, March all the way to now, that's good. But that's never always the full story. So one of the things that I like to do is, here's the first thing I like to do when you're tracking your performance. I'm going to give you guys a few gems here. So load up your pieces of paper, because we're actually getting ready to discuss some things. All right. So first thing that I like to do is I like to look at the 5-day chart. Now, a lot of folks are like, wait, Mark, you're in long-term positions. Why the 5-day chart? The 5-day chart is there for you to see exactly where you started at the beginning of the week, all the way to, say, for example, where you're ending at the beginning of the week. So sometimes you could be having short-term pain in the middle of the week, and that can like really hurt your soul and your heart. But yet at the same token, if you look at where you started from, say, for example, the beginning of the week to where you are finishing at the end of the week, it doesn't really feel as bad. I mean, now there's other companies out there that are doing worse, but I mean, it doesn't quite feel as bad. And as you can see, we've hit some huge run-ups here within the XLY pattern. Now, when you're looking at, when we now need to get a little bit more technical, this is where we start looking at the 1 month chart. So notice the differentiation from the 5-day where it's showing a downward trend to the 1 month where it's still showing that upward trend. Now, just to do a little bit of a value at a validation tactic, I like to look at the 3 month, and I like to compare the 3 month to the 1 month. So as you can see here, I look at where we are now, just taking in, say, for example, the 1 month time frame, and I see that we're on an upward trend. And then I also see here on a 3 month, we're still in that upward trend. So it's still telling me that we're somewhat at a bullish trend. Now it's starting to taper off. It's not as like, spiky as, say, for example, the other periods of the chart are, but that's okay. So now it comes down to where is it that we look at the next price if we see a drop? Well, we look at the most recent high point of the stock or of the ETF, and that sits us at 137.36. Now, for those of you that want to be a bit more technical, what you can do is you can actually go to bar chart and you can actually look at the support and resistance. So I'll let you do that just for the sake of it, so that way you can do some homework. I have some homework for you. Compare the 1 month and the 3 month chart to what you see as it pertains to support levels and resistance levels on bar chart. See if it adds up. All right, so if we're looking at it, we see, like I said, it's really that 137.36 though that we're trading at 140.17 right now. So if we decided to say, okay, hey, I've made X amount of profit and I'm looking to, say, for example, protect my profits in my long-term position by playing a put option, I would probably be smart and say, okay, hey, I'm going to set a 136 or 137 put against that call and say, all right, I'm going to set this for, let's say, December 18, 2020. Now, any downside that potentially comes from here on out, I didn't pay that much because I always say do a 1 to 5, meaning for every 5 contracts that you own, you play 1 put. Now, if you only own 1 contract and on an option, you can just play 1 put against it. But what you can do is you play that put option, you ride it all the way down, and then when you realize that the downward trend is starting to slow up, you could sell the put, and then next thing you know, either roll that back into, say, for example, a call position, or you could just sell it, take profits, and hold for a different position. So what I'm probably guessing in trajectory is if you're playing a 137, you have a potential to come all the way down to a 135, which is pretty much the next level, which is the second support level for now.
Kamari, do you have any news regarding any of the holdings in XLY?
Consumer discretionary.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we all know that there is this tropical storm on the East Coast in the tri-state area for New York, and that left 1 million people without power. So I'm just wondering, like, that number of people, will we see that? We already saw that, like, areas still struggling to reopen and businesses just really having a hard time. So, like, how does that translate into the market if we have 1 million people who are just not able to do anything?
What that does is, one, I mean, that takes away a huge portion of the market that also is trading. So take that into consideration. That also takes into consideration that if some folks are not able to do work, there's a lot of things. And when we look at natural disasters, it definitely plays a huge role into retail sectors that could be hit. And keep in mind, retail was already decimated by COVID-19. And so now this only just adds salt to the wound. I mean, looking at consumer discretionary, like when you think about the markets, they typically think pretty much 6 to 9 months out. So a lot of the bad news of what we know about outside of, say, for example, natural disasters, of course, they typically price in bad news. I don't think that this is going to stop. I don't think that this is going to stop the train for the consumer discretionary sector and moving, though.
Yeah, for sure. Will we see any movement? I know you mentioned before in the series that whenever there is a natural disaster, we see some of those stocks that benefit from it, like Home Depot or those home improvement stocks.
Oh, for sure. You typically see like a small pop in those stocks. I mean, I'm probably sure if you were to go look at Home Depot over the last, say, for example, 2 days, you would definitely see some, say, for example, some buying activity there. But I don't think that you're going to see any real significant, you're going to see anything that's real or significant. Now, if we're talking about like long-term, like natural disasters where people have to prepare, they have to board up stuff and everything else. Now you can see something, you can see some activity either in the like Lowe's or Home Depot. But again, it's going to be just a small blip on the screen.
Gotcha.
We got some super chats.
Hey,
Brian says, would you wait for a market pullback, 200 to 400 drop in the Dow to put on January 22 of 2022 trades?
Brian's over here throwing out all the jewels. Okay.
XLK. Or does entry not matter as much with options 1 to 2 years out?
Okay, so that's a very, very good question, and I get that a lot. So, for example, a lot of folks are asking me, hey, Mark, since you showed us the Bollinger Bands, and there's a lot of companies that have spiked outside of those Bollinger Bands, let's give you a little bit of a key. And it's kind of like a take it how you feel type of key, but it's going to be solid. Trust me on this one. All right, so when we're looking at, say, for example, a 2-year position, a lot of folks focus on what's happening now, the premium that you pay now. So let's say your premium's up at it gets all the way up to $5 a contract. Sometimes I buy contracts that are up there, but then I'm also very, very cautious because then if I'm buying at such a premium and a pullback happens, then that can really swing the bid negative. And then now I'm now holding this position with a lot of decay that really has to pick up momentum in order to get itself back up. So what I would probably say is if you're not going to be playing any puts, or if you're going to be just sitting on the sideline and waiting, smart money says wait for pullbacks. And literally they do happen because you typically see somewhat of a small miniature correction every month in the stock market. So people are going to take profits, and when they take profits on those days, then that's when you can definitely just have fun, go mad. But if you are saying, hey, I've got the capital, I've got the security to do it. I mean, it's 2 years. And when we really look at it in the grand scheme of things, when we talk about corrections, a correction is really not going to stop the show. It only just literally is a pulse check for the market. But at the same token, the fundamentals are still in play. And if you guys are following that equation that I gave you guys on Tuesday, then, and also if you notice what I did was I also multiplied that position times 0.1, which also signifies a 10% correction towards the price. And then you add that to your strike.
Drink some water. Drink some water. We need a commercial break.
No commercial breaks here. We gotta give it to the people.
No, we have a commercial break for real. Here's the commercial break. We didn't talk about the organization that the super chat dollars are going towards.
By all means, let's do it.
All right.
I'm gonna sit back and just hydrate.
Has been actively serving youth in many communities throughout King and Pierce County since 2003. During this time, LEG has been able to transform the lives of youth who are often overlooked in society at large. LEG's philosophy revolves around providing holistic and meaningful experiences for youth, which address the challenges that African American and other youth of color face on a daily basis. Youth are partnered with positive role models who most often live and work in the communities of the youth they serve, and also receive social, emotional, and academic supports to foster self-sufficiency and marketable skills that support personal, professional, and economic development. LEG offers 4 programs: Young Kings and Queens of Seattle, King County, the Scholars Project, Youth in Business, and Know to Grow. Some of the services offered are college prep, HBCU tours, culturally relevant mentoring, entrepreneurship training, paid internships at Queen Care, and career development, and more. Y'all, if you want to know more about Life Enrichment Group, visit lifeenrichmentgroup.org. That is where this week's Super Chat dollars are going to. So thank you in advance.
And send us the request if you have another organization. I mean, send it to Jolene because, I mean, I'm just here so I won't get fined. But no, for real, in all seriousness, if you have a nonprofit organization, or if you know of a nonprofit organization that's pretty much like what we like to say, that they're doing cool stuff, We're trying to watch our words because there may be kids watching. Shout out to you kids, you're the future. But if you know someone or an organization that's doing some pretty cool stuff, definitely let us know, because we're not doing this for the money. We're doing this for each and every single one of you. Hence the reason why we called this the Come Up series. So for sure, keep us posted. Let us know. We want to help. All right.
Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yes.
Mari.
I'm glad y'all told me I should be watching my language, because okay. So talking about your boy Trump and
Oh,
how
that's her. She voted for him.
One of y'all.
No.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't. Don't come for her for the comments.
Right, please,
No,
please.
I don't think any of us voted for him.
Yeah. So he went bumping his gums and was trying to coerce this deal with Microsoft and TikTok, and it backfired a little bit because there was just like some kickback from China. They were like, "How is dude coming at us like this?" More or less. Do you think that that deal will actually go through?
I think that in the long run, the deal will go through. Are we talking about, if we're talking about the type of things that Donald Trump is asking for? No.
Yeah, we also see he wanted to get his cut. He was like, "Oh yeah, I helped this."
That's not happening. I mean, there is no devil's cut to this deal. But no, I think in the long run, the deal is going to go through because they want to sell off the American version of this. And then on top of that, now you have Facebook stepping into the space also with Instagram Reel. I haven't checked it out. So for those of you that have checked it out, please tell me what you think about it. So yeah. But in the long run, I think that it's going to be just fine. The president can't really have an impact on the deal, because even if they do, if any type of political behavior kind of has an impact on the deal, CFIUS steps in and they say no. So
what's the strategy of this deal though for Microsoft? Because I was reading that even if they do get TikTok, they have a smaller
share of the TikTok market.
Yeah, you have a way smaller share of that consumer base. So it's like you're not even getting the full breadth of it.
So let's roll this back a little bit. So for example, Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, and I think I mentioned this in Tuesday's episode, so I'll quickly run through this. Microsoft acquired LinkedIn way back in like whatever, and pretty much they allowed the company to just run as usual. But here we are in COVID-19. A lot of companies have hiring freezes, and then on top of that, its sales platform is just terrible. There's no real significant revenue coming through. Now, of course, you know, Microsoft could literally acquire a TikTok and then literally let that revenue that comes through, and it pretty much supplements for potential loss of revenue that's coming through on the LinkedIn platform. Because it's not like there's a billion users using LinkedIn. Let's just put that into perspective. There would probably be more users that are monetizable through, say, for example, TikTok, even just the smaller number for, say, for example, the Americas or even Europe, versus what LinkedIn's monetization can do for the interim time being. Now, of course, also Microsoft is looking to step into areas as it pertains to getting into younger generations. They already have gaming. So there's not a lot of young Generation Z folks that are using LinkedIn, because they're kind of like considered, hey, you know, I'm not making like, you know, executive six figures. So
yeah.
So I think that when we look at Microsoft in the long run, it's a smart deal. Yeah, I think that they can pull it off.
All right. So they're trying to capture that other user base.
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you think about it, when companies acquire, they're always companies acquire for three reasons. Just keep this in. Let's just do a simple breakdown. When your company gets acquired, they're going to acquire you, one, because they either see that there's an opportunity to either add this to their platform, which ultimately makes their platform much more richer. Two, they're not going to care about the technology that you produce, and they're going to acquire, say, for example, your team, because they believe that they need to acquire, say, for example, the people. And so a lot of folks are like, wait, why are they going to spend millions of dollars just to acquire a company for its people? You have to look at it from this perspective, from the scope of, say, for example, recruiting. And I can kind of give a little bit of, that since I had a recruitment startup. When you think about the cost of hiring, you have to kind of comes close to almost, say, for example, $250,000 per person when you think about the actual course of like from start to finish and going through the hiring process for corporate America. Now, if you can acquire a company, then you're really paying pennies on the dollar to acquire the talent. So we call that what we call that as an acqui-hire. So now they either acquired you for the tech, or they acquired you, say for example, the team, or 3, they just acquired you for the potential revenue, and many times they'll end up shelving the company and just taking pieces of it and then just adding it to what already exists, and then pretty much calling it an upgrade. So.
All right, so let's talk about AMD, who is a strong contender for my next, well, I won't say my next bay, but you know. Anyway, I'm gonna look at AMD.
Oh, hold up, wait a minute. We are not gonna speed past that one. Say what? Jolene, we're gonna need an explanation, because on Tuesday, somebody put a comment asking, if SMH is Bay, then who is Side Bay? Are you double dipping? Like, I'm just trying to find out. I'm asking for a friend.
All I'm saying is that it's under review. There may be some double dippage going on, but it's under review. But I would be remiss if we did not bring up AMD, because 1, AMD was one of my picks for the end of year. And then 2, hello, 52-week high. And I just want to have a moment just to, shout out AMD. I don't need to look at a chart or anything. I just want to shout out AMD. Shout out to you, AMD, right now in the comments.
Yo, SMH, if you out there, you in trouble. I'm just saying. I'm saying you are in trouble. Yo, if you don't lock that down, it seems like AMD will. So, no, but on the real, AMD is a hell of a story for folks that don't understand, like, really what's the energy behind it. I honestly, I'd be remiss if I don't pull a chart for everyone for them to understand.
I mean, as long as you are pulling up the chart, yeah, that's fine.
We'll do it.
And bringing it up, that's fine.
All right, so here's the chart for AMD, and let's look at it all the way from a 5-year standpoint. Now, here is AMD back in really August 10th of 2015. This company was on the verge of bankruptcy. Like, put this into perspective. If we bring it all the way back, like, all the way back for AMD, yeah, they've had some bumpy roads and everything else. But when we look at it in, say, for example, 5-year, which really tells a story, they were pretty much deer in headlights, like just waiting for somebody to hit the kill shot. And then all of a sudden they got new leadership in Dr. Lisa, and the company changed gears and started innovating. And pretty much this is around the time that they introduced their next generation of chips right here. And then, of course, we had some issues there were some issues with their graphics cards unit, because they hyped it up a lot, but it performed well, but it didn't perform as well. But then the CPU chips, and then they said, okay, hey, we're doing well on just the CPU chips for like laptops, desktops, those types of devices, as well as their Xbox, their PS4 gaming divisions are just holding steady. So of course they kept climbing. And then last year they just got better, and they started closing in on that margin of, say, for example, their competition when they got into the server space. So for those of you that don't know, Intel had the server space throughout this entire period of time. Intel had the server space on lock, y'all. Like, when we say on lock, we talk about 97% market. That was Intel. 97%. At that point, like, yo, that's like saying Amazon has 97% of e-commerce. Whoever steps in, bro, you're David, and that is definitely Goliath. And so AMD stepped into this space, and nobody expected that the performance would be good, and at the same token, just as good as Intel chips, and in some cases better. And then now it literally competes against the big chip, the big chip company that ultimately that has held this beacon of light for a very long time. And the Intel, they stopped innovating because they didn't feel that there was any necessary need of competition, and they were overcharging people. So AMD just snuck in and just said, okay, hey, we here. And then when you're hearing about 7 nanometers, that's pretty much making the chip more efficient, much more smaller and everything else, getting more power, but at the same token, being efficient as it pertains to not having to take so much power away, but still powerful chip. All right, so then AMD just took off, just gone off to the races. And all the while, if I pull up Intel on this chart, though, I really don't want to, but you know, okay. Intel's all the way down here, just in case you can't see it.
I was looking for it. I was like, wait, where'd it go?
Like, just let that sink in. And as we come closer within, say, for example, years, you can see where the two diverged off back in 2018. And since then, Intel just has not been able to keep up. If we look at it, say, for example, for the past year, it really tells you the tail of the tape. Again, Intel made that crossover here for a very short period of time. But then since then, it's been pretty much AMD.
But Mark, why does it look like on that whatever was that year to date? I can't remember which chart you just looked at.
The 2-year?
But was it a 2-year? Yeah. Why does the Intel line, like, why does that look like the midline of the Bollinger Band as like AMD is like bouncing off of it?
Because it tried to make a comeback, but then at the same token, it's like the market said, hey, the streets don't agree with you.
Yeah, that's cool. You can't be looking like a midline to your competition.
No, you cannot. And that's exactly what AMD has turned them into. I mean, literally, I'm sorry, Intel. And for all those folks that, love Intel products, and from what I'm hearing is that Intel is significantly backlogged and not able to fulfill product, which is making a lot of OEMs or original manufacturers within the PC space very, very upset. And you're only just pushing more towards the competition of AMD. My price target for AMD is officially at $100 price target.
Oh, and that's some run up then. That's some room to run. Yo, we got a message from Monica, a comment on Tuesday's video. She said, to all the organizers of the Come Up, on behalf of African-American youth across Martin Luther King County, sending my sincerest appreciation and thank yous for your generosity towards my organization, Life Enrichment Group. Y'all rock. The Come Up is one of my favorite shows. Keep dropping the knowledge. Peace and love. Sincerely, Monica. Monica's the CEO of Life Enrichment Group, and she just wants to, she's really like excited, and she wants to thank each and every one of you for donating via the super chat. So,
oh, and by the way, for those that wanted to know, we raised in Tuesday's episode, we raised $933 for the organization. So of course, in the end, we'll do the final tally, and of course, we'll keep it very transparent with all of you, pretty much what the final tally is. But yeah, shout outs to Monica. You're doing fantastic work. We love you. And just as a heads up, I may talk to my guy, The Dark Knight. He may also, either send something your way as well.
All right. Okay. Matching.
All right. So what's next, guys? I mean,
let's see.
I'm kind of feeling a little generous since we're in the giving mood,
Okay.
Can we, at the end, we may give out some gems or some keys.
Yeah, which one? So talking about the antitrust hearings very quickly.
Okay.
You know, someone was saying that there was some things that kind of were uncovered that showed that they, like some of the companies may be selling things at a loss to really stifle competition. So how do you feel this is going so far with these hearings? I heard they produced over a million documents. The subcommittees in this hearing has produced over 1 million documents, which is ridiculous. But yeah, what's just the general rundown of outlook for this?
The general rundown is that though that they may have millions of documents, is that going to stop the show? No.
When
These
you think
companies are
about
what
how
makes these.
big they are, like,
So, I mean, these companies are what makes America competitive, especially since the new wave used to be, say, for example, the new wave used to be about, hey, it's all about industrials. Now there's only two players there within the industrial landscape. There's Airbus and then there's Boeing. We see how Boeing. I digress. All right, so I'll keep the shade to the minimum today. I'll keep the shade to the minimum today. All right. So, but then when we look at it, the next wave of what we're seeing is technology. We're in it now, and we're in a technological revolution. I mean, as a person who's a VC and seeing what's in the space, you know, you're seeing a lot of artificial intelligence really coming to the forefront. And a lot of these major companies, they're going to take a lot of these great ideas and great minds alongside and say, okay, hey, let's keep pushing forward. And of course, you're going to have American politics that is always going to try to stand there to say, okay, hey, we regulate just to make sure that we protect consumers. The problem is with these antitrust cases, and they may have to rewrite antitrust rules specifically for tech companies, is because of the fact that what they're doing is benefiting each and every single one of us, the consumer. When we look back, just to throw out some knowledge here to folks, when we look back at the Microsoft antitrust case, the reason why they failed miserably in that antitrust case, I'm talking about Microsoft, is because of the fact that they were not only screwing their competitors, but they were also screwing us, the consumers. They were overcharging. And once they were the behemoth in the room, they were literally just like saying, okay, hey, we're coming out. Yo, this shade is rated E for everyone. And that's exactly what they did. So you got Amazon that is really taking, like, they're literally providing great products and services for the consumer. They've subsidized a lot of the costs for the consumer. Now, of course, if you're a small business, I'm probably sure that your business is done well through Amazon's platform. I think the same thing can be said if you're an app developer, you've done very, very well through Apple's platform. I mean, Google has so many different apps and so many people who copy apps. So, I mean, you know, honestly, you know, take that with a huge grain of salt because they have tons more apps than Apple does, but they don't do a very good job of regulating their app store. But at the same token, it's like what they're doing within the space. I think the two companies in which that Congress can go after is Facebook and Alphabet. Those are the two companies because when it comes down to privacy, you've got the main argument for Facebook and, you know, how they've consistently been getting slaps on the wrist, but yet nothing has really stopped them from making bad decisions that also can be also harmful to the consumer. And then you also have Google, which has done some harm as it pertains to privacy, but I mean, nothing as major as, say, for example, Facebook. So, I mean, Amazon's going to be just fine. People are just mad at them because they figured out some tax loopholes so that way they don't have to pay taxes. I mean, don't hate the player, hate the game. And then people are hating on Apple because of the fact that honestly, it's like if you have to pay 30% as it pertains to getting your your app out there and is doing very, very well, fall back. You know, have a coconut smile.
Yeah. And to clarify, when I say they're so big, I'm not saying that they should be broken up. I'm saying like who replaces them? Like if you do.
Case in point, like think about it. If you have like if face like okay, I want to ask two questions, and I've asked one of the questions on Instagram. I said if you were sitting in that meeting, if you were sitting in that congressional hearing, and you had to question a person who knows your search history, would you be aggressive?
I'd be asking Jeff Bezos for the snacks.
Would you be aggressive? And the same thing if somebody knew your shopping history, would you be aggressive?
Softballs.
Now here's the next question. If Facebook was to disappear today, where would all those small businesses go? Where would they have access to over 3.5 billion potential customers? Let that sink in for a second. Where would they go? And if you're a small business on this chat, or if you're watching us live, where would you go?
Yeah, let us know. Put that in the comments. Because where? You're right.
Because I for damn sure ain't going to TikTok.
Is TikTok set up for them?
They may be trying to.
I guess I took a sip too fast.
I don't be watching TikTok.
We need to stop because folks from the innovation team and acquisition departments at Microsoft and these other tech companies could be watching. So let's just, let's just move on. We don't want to give them any free ideas.
We will keep it PG.
Right.
By the way, if you like the video, please like it. If you dislike it, go ahead and hit the dislike, but please tell us why you disliked it because we want to get better. If you are subscribed, thank you. We love you. If you want to be a part of the squad and the movement, join it by hitting the subscribe button and also hitting the alert. Some folks are asking me, like, how do we stay tuned to this? So there it is.
Yes, hit that notification bell, y'all.
Yep.
All right, so in our last moments here, what are you feeling like?
I'm feeling like shorting.
All right, let's talk about shorting because we have some folks that were trying to short Wayfair based off of Tuesday's episode, and it was already down before they can even get to it. It had already come like 7% or something.
First off, I'll throw some gems out there for those that are not watching, that haven't been paying attention. You may want to pay attention to Teladoc. You may want to pay attention to Datadog, DDOG, or TDOC. You may want to pay attention to any of these companies that are ultimately giving you discounts, and Teladoc is significantly one of them. All right, so now let's talk about a key, shall we? Let's give you a key.
Yeah. Jingle, let's go.
I wish, maybe one day I gotta get a key. What do you guys think? Should I just get it like a key, like to signify it? All right, so check this out. So for those of you guys that have been playing in long-term positions to, let's say, 2022, congratulations. And you guys have probably been seeing astronomical gains. But what goes up doesn't always have some short-term pain in the process, which means stock markets were made to go up, but it doesn't mean that they're always going to go up. There's going to be some short-term pain or some pullbacks in which that people that don't maybe think like you will want to sell. And for various different reasons, whether they feel like valuations are unbelievable or whatever you may have. So how do you protect yourself, right? How do you protect yourself from, say, for example, the downfall of stock? Now, one way that you can do it is you can sell. Of course, everybody knows, okay, hey, I'm going to sell. But if you're in a 2022 position and you want to hold steady and you want to find a different strategy, this is where the game of puts comes into play. Because when you play a put, let's say, for example, and let's go to a chart.
Yes.
We shall go to a chart. Now, we'll take the ETF route just so that way everybody can definitely follow along. I feel, you know what, y'all, I feel bad for anybody who dropped out of this live and missed it at the very, very end. But, there's always replay. All right, so let's take XLK. And let's remove this thing off of the comparison. All right, so we have XLK, and XLK has gone for a massive run up. Now, of course, like I said, we're playing outside of the Bollinger Band, and so we see some points here, like here, and then pretty much around the 110 area, 109. That's really like the last significant hold, unless you're looking at the 113, which was just established today, since the stock went on a heavy run up. Now, like I said in Tuesday's episode, when you see a lot of companies when you see a lot of positions drop outside of or go outside of the Bollinger Bands, it will retreat back to the bands like clockwork. It will. So what you want to do is you want to protect yourself. So what you're going to do is you're going to set a put And pretty much the way that you buy puts is the same way that you buy calls, except that on one side of the chain it's calls, I think it's the left side, and then on the right side it's puts. And you make money on puts as the stock drops down, versus when you do calls, you make money as the stock goes upward towards your strike price. So this one's going to fall down to your strike price. And so what we would do here is we would probably set a put at, let's say, 110 for, let's say, a December. And in doing that December, anything that happens from now until here means that, of course, you lose in the short term for your against your long-term 2022 call. But yet at the same token, in your December put, you're gaining that as it pertains to value and profit on the way down. And as you start to see that, for example, it starts to settle off or whatever it does, you can sell the put, either re-up it back into the call, so that way you increase your contract volume, or you can find another position to coincide, and now you've added leverage to yourself, because now you're leveraged into different positions for the long term. You see how that works? And you let the profit work. You still keep the principal balance of what you put on for the put. You still keep that on the sideline after you cashed out, and then you just literally just invest with the profit. And little by little, that's how you keep it growing. And that right there is what we call the perfect hedge for an options trader. We see this happen many times on the institutional side, where, say, for example, they own stock, and many times they'll hedge and have puts against their positions, because of the fact that, you know, earnings can be a wild card. So they'll play the puts, and sometimes they'll also play the calls, or they may do what is called a call spread, which caps you, I think, at about 100%. So you can do that, or say, for example, if you're playing in the long-term calls, your call is already going higher, and then you're just protecting yourself from any potential downside in the short term. So that is a major key, because if you do that, you can I literally just gave you, like, in these past 2 days, those two are major keys in which that literally you can rinse and repeat. All you have to do is just find winning companies and literally just play the long term.
Major keys, y'all. Got some jewelry out there.
Right. Hope y'all taking notes.
I took some notes, but I'll be trying to review the episodes myself,
You know what's so funny? I actually review it too, because I always like to see how is it that we can get better, or how is it that I can get better, because I always want to provide value to you guys, and gals. So like I said, if you do end up disliking the video, I mean, there's always one, and if that is you, talk to us. Tell us what we could do better. Send us a message if you don't want to be out there on blast.
That one person. It's probably a troll.
I mean, you never know. But
If you don't get feedback, it might just be a troll.
it's okay. All right, y'all. How are we feeling today? Did we feel like we gave enough value to the folks?
Definitely.
What you guys got planned for the rest of the week?
The week? What is today? Thursday?
Yeah. What do you got planned for tomorrow's trading activity? Are you going to be looking for any, puts on the side?
After I review this episode and take my notes very diligently, I might just do a little something, because a lot of my positions are running high right now, and it's bound to, take a little dip. So, why not make money on coming up and coming down? This is called the come up, but you can also make money on the come down. You feel
I have
me?
a question. If you're making money on the downside, is that really a come down, or is that still a come up?
It's still a come up. But you see, I was trying to make a play with the words here. You see what I'm saying? You still are coming up. You're still coming up, regardless. Even when things go down, you're coming up. Yeah, take your sips. Take them.
There she is. All right, y'all. Kamari, what do you got going on for the rest of this week? What are you looking at?
I actually want to learn some more about puts. Like, I'm still getting comfortable with it. So that's actually the next thing that I wanted to get into. So this is timely. Like, I was over here like,
And any reports of, milestone breakings do we have this year? Did anybody crush anything? I'm asking for a friend.
Chugging
We're
along.
friends, you know, there's 673 friends that are online right now. So wait, is she gonna
Is
do
that
it?
the
Are you
money
gonna do
gun?
it?
Is
No,
that the money gun?
I gotta wait until I hit the next goal. I've already blew past all my goals, and now I gotta set a new one. So stay tuned for the money gun busting for this next goal.
Okay. Well, I will be on IG live this evening. And on top of that, for some of you guys that may have seen, I will also be on IG live next week with Terry, who also happens to be an investor slash trader. So that should be interesting. I think that's on the 12th. So that should be cool. I always like to meet other traders out there.
Wait, what about Kamari? Did she have a milestone?
Yeah, Kamari, I mean, you being all quiet over there. Like, did you meet your year-end goal?
Not yet, but I did just adjust it. I did just adjust it today.
Wait,
Made
you
it my-
adjusted. So then did that mean that you met it and then you adjusted?
No, it looks like I'm going to meet it early, so I'm gonna adjust it now. Oh,
Okay.
yep.
I don't know
So
about that one, Jolene. But we're gonna check in on that one
Hit
next
the
week.
goal first and then adjust. But you
Right?
know, get your zone, get your
I
zone.
don't know about that one. Well,
coming
thank you
early.
everybody for joining us. We had a brilliant time. Of course, we're gonna keep it light and fun for you, but also at the same token, provide value so that way you can keep learning. Until next time, I'm Mark Monroe.
I'm Jolene GC in the place to be.
And I'm sorry, I don't know why they just tickle me.
Oh
my
gosh.
And I'm Kamari Bright.
And this has been your Come Up on Hot Take Thursday. We'll see you next week on Trade Talk Tuesday. Stay safe, y'all. We love y'all. Peace.
I saw butter back there.